Gotcha.
What's up, fam? It's been a minute. Hope everybody's summer has been going well. We're just getting situated here, me and Brother Hudson. And how do I say your social media name?
Entree Motivator.
Entree Motivator.
Yeah,
Entree.
like I motivate, but I also, teach. So, motivation doesn't last. Only when you teach somebody something, they can go learn and evolve after that.
I like it. I like it. I know our discussion today is going to center around really how folks can think of their virtual real estate and where and how they choose to live or to reside as a business. But also, I think it's really important. The point you brought up on Clubhouse is the planning, planning for the future and thinking about today you may be on Shopify, but in 2 years, you may need to have your own Shopify and not be on Shopify, but be Shopify yourself. So I think it's a really interesting conversation. I build it out as, GoDaddy and Hostgator versus Wix.
Yeah.
But I mean, to some degree, I think it's a valid point and something that we need to really consider as Black entrepreneurs. So can you tell everybody, introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you got to this point as a web expert?
Oh yeah, definitely. Me myself, people call me D Hud, the Entree Motivator. My first name is Donmenico, so I just go by D a lot of times. But Entree Motivator, I got that as a speaker. But born and raised in ATL, Georgia. As a veteran also. But the main way how I got here, through starting businesses. I've been a graphic designer for about 17 years. But as far as at first I was a kid. It was some of that stuff was just a hobby, starting off, or a passion, I should say. But as far as to be able to start, my print company, I've had that for 8-9 years now, where I've print company and my consulting company where I've helped businesses grow and start. But printing specifically, I do a lot of wraps and a lot of for the last few years, a lot of branding when it comes to branding and marketing when it comes to actual visuals, actual windows, storefront windows, signage, everything from people's logos to their the full physical location, when it comes to branding the space, maybe their vehicle or their fleet of vehicles. So when it comes to print company and marketing, and I was already doing websites because I've been coding, even everybody probably remembers some of the MySpace days, but even during the MySpace days, I would be using something like Dreamweaver, to copy the code and put it over here to make the fire stuff and then sell it to the people so they can have fire MySpaces. But even growing, my print company, just learning how much, my web development company grew, started a specific business for that specifically, when it got, too much to be able to, a lot to be able to separate it as a different entity. But when it comes to being I create now as far as, growing in the web space, for me is always growing my hands and growing my mind, at all times. And as far as, being on the print side, rapping, it's a lot dealing with your actual hands. But when it comes to, it's actually a mind game, when it comes to actually being patient and taking your time when, doing things when it comes to, consistency, certain industries.
Yeah.
Web space, it just got a lot deeper when it came to creating apps and websites and the difference between hosting and so that's what I mean by the actual services, because just realizing how much entrepreneurs are missing and getting manipulated by these platforms. I had to start a platform to help.
Yeah, I going back to the print business and what you said about the mindset, and I love watching home repair shows because I like watching people figure it out and see the challenge and being able to. I know a lot of times when I watch the car shows, it was also like that when they did a wrap or they painted the car. It was always not always, but a lot of times there was a challenge making sure that everything was all the lines were clean. And I think the attention to detail is something that generationally I appreciate it when I look at my parents' generation, which they were born in the 30s and the 40s, and being born in the 70s, we still had a somewhat of a consistency for attention to detail, but that kind of went out the windows in the 80s and 90s. And so when you're talking about MySpace days, I remember you could tell somebody's MySpace page wasn't done properly because it didn't quite, the edge didn't quite meet the template. It was a little space on the side. Now you're like, dude, where'd you get that template from? But
DIY.
Right. Or just it was a lot of websites that were selling templates or giving away templates for free, and templates didn't wrap. It didn't wrap across the whole part of the screen, and so I think that's a really good and important point.
You brought up the house. So that was, you actually brought up a good point because actually what we teach in here is what I teach as far as I prefer to it as digital real estate. Like actual virtual real estate. That's where the line gets thin and people are buying properties that probably look like where I'm staying at now, which is iffy market. But digital real estate, meaning places people put their assets, whether it's their courses, their classes, their podcasts. A lot of this stuff is your assets. But when it comes to the digital real estate game, like you mentioned in WordPress and Shopify and Wix and Hostgator, we don't really want you to get caught up in those specific companies, but what they actually offer is what we're trying to break down, what the difference is, between them are, because Hostgator offers hosting, there's a lot of different hosting companies. GoDaddy offers hosting, but they also offer web builders. So if you don't know the difference, you may just get a domain and you may not know the next step. So you may not know the difference of what you have versus what you don't have. And in the digital real estate world, one of the things that actually sparked this conversation is I'm like the builder for the digital real estate, right? So we're not, but I do want to mention, we're not talking about, Amazon and eBay. Those are platforms that, to leverage all these platforms that we're talking about, because those are marketplaces. We're not talking about marketplaces. We're talking about your own, each one of these platforms you own, but to what level? So the web builders themselves, when it comes to Shopify and Wix, to me, that's like renting an apartment. When it comes to buying your own, getting a web host, that is buying the apartment building, right? So, and the reason I say that is because if you had 10 Shopifys, or 10 Wixes, or most of the most popular web builders, you're going to have to pay 10 bills. You're going to have to pay 10 bills to that person because you're renting their space. So if you wanted 2 spaces, you have to pay for 2 spaces, but when it comes to web hosting, you buy the building and then you can build 10 spaces inside of that and still have 1 bill. So that same $30 a month, could potentially hold 10, 20 websites. But the thing is, if you don't have the technical difficulty, knowledge to even make that, make that into fruition, the main thing is having a professional do it, but one of the biggest things is, just like buying an apartment. It's easy to go get an apartment. It's way harder to buy an apartment building, So, but the thing is, with getting a host, you basically you have space to grow, and go ahead.
And I think that where people are, where I want to see the conversation go is going back a little bit back to where we started at, which is that you have to understand what your need is. If you can't clearly define your need, then and that goes back to the lines and taking the attention to detail. And something I was going to say, which was that there's no easy way around work. No. It's just not. It's no easy way around work. When when you talk about an apartment building versus a house, apartment versus apartment building versus apartment, and being an owner versus a renter, I think what I want to emphasize for folks is that you definitely have to look at your personal situation and your personal needs and what your personal bandwidth is, because your bandwidth may not allow you to deal with all the things that a host or owner has to do when it comes to hosting. And I'll tell you, I had, I think Hostgator went down or had a problem about 4 months ago. And I think we have 16 sites on Hostgator, and all 16 were affected. Now, 2 of those, I was in a competition. And so I needed that site to be up. So I had to jump from Hostgator, go to a web builder, like Wix, that didn't have this problem at this point, transfer or have my designer redo everything onto Wix, make sure that got up, forward the domain over there, move the www to the Wix site, and really go ahead and pay the the extra money for the Wix site to be up, because I was in this competition and I couldn't afford the site to be down. So I think even in understanding that you really need to have old school tech, we used to call this a backup to a backup to a backup. So that meant you had your daily backups, you had your weekly backups, you had the monthly backup. You had an offsite backup document, right? Exactly. But this is a challenge, right? When you talk about being an owner, a lot of times the thing that people don't take into account is when something happens. So whether that's a hurricane, a flood, tornado, a tree fall, you're an apartment building owner, you got to supply, and you have to make sure you have insurance, and you may have to, depending on the state and the city, supply your renter with another place to go. So there's some nuance to deciding, do I own or do I build a website on a place like Wix and Shopify, and as you said, pay the extra $30 a month, or do I pay $30 and have all my sites on this hosting company? And even in those 2 scenarios, there were a few times in the history of the internet. One of them was a gardener. He was cutting the grass with one of those sharp edgers, and he cut a fiber optic line. It took the entire Midwest and the West Coast out. So everybody was offline on West Coast and Midwest. People that had servers, though, on the East Coast, they were stuck. And I remember that day really, really significantly, because I was like, wow, I hadn't thought about, where does my hosting company have the servers at? And now we have some companies like Microsoft has their servers in Ireland. So you have you really have to. There's no easy way around this. Not zero. You have to sit there with the knowledge you have, the intent that you have. Call it intentional intelligence. Sit there and get my intention is to do X, Y, and Z. How much intelligence do I have to make this happen? And if you don't have enough, you need to go to an expert who can tell you, and always ask people, what are my options? I want to know what I should know, what I don't know, and what I need to think about for the future. And I think that that's the challenge when it comes to Black business owners and Black entrepreneurs, is that we are usually a here and now. What's right in front of my face? What do I need to do to get running right now? Because we're behind. But
Yeah,
future, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, definitely. We behind. I was just saying. But
for the future, you have to decide.
No.
No, go ahead.
But I know you mentioned you mentioned a few good points. Because those having a server will come with more problems. They like superheroes. The more power, the greater responsibility. But I think with the generational wealth building, it's to me it's what is actually how can you secure your assets for next generation, if what it's built on is somebody else's. That's always for me to control, every single thing from the root. A lot of times, you mentioned the host and what happened. You had the 15, 17 sites. But the thing is, with any kind of hosting environment, you own the building. A lot of times you own that building. So when it comes to data migration, you have full reign over that. So if it was a site that was down of mine, and I wanted it to be on another hosting, I could do it within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, literally the exact same site, right? But when it comes to, that's the hosting environment. If the company, Hostgator, because we gave somebody a host, right? If their host is down, there's hundreds of hosts. You can, if they get that deep, they can have a server at their house, or get somebody overseas services. It's plenty of servers. Amazon is one of the biggest ones, but it's harder to use. But a lot of people, a lot of big companies utilize that. But the thing with Shopify, if Shopify's go down, where are you gonna move to? You know what I'm saying? So when a server moves down, all that data is being backed up, and when Shopify goes down, it's no other. You can't just grab and go. So when it comes to just an apartment building, data migration is like moving. Like who moves and don't take the stuff with them? You ever moved and not use the U-Haul or the truck? But to be able to data migrate, that's the thing. Like when you have WAS, because that's actually what it's called. When you hear about SaaS, like software as a service, you may hear about MaaS, but WAS is website as a service. That's what Wix and Shopify are. They are built within a server. So the thing is, if you have your own hosting, your own server, you can build your own WAS, but you can buy the apartment and build your own, apartment for rent, right? Just like Shopify, but just like you said, it's going to have you own the building. So you have, that's another, of course, it's another problem, but it's another solution. Like for instance, if I bought an apartment building and I want people to rent it out and I don't have security, and I don't pay for security for my building, what's going to happen? It's going to get not raided. It's going to get broken into. It's going to get broken into. So one of the
things, in Atlanta, it is a raid. That like I lived in I lived over there on Ralph Davis Abernathy.
Yeah.
And in 2016, they were working in the doors. They were robbing people. Like, it felt like a raid. We lived in this loft building, and 4 of my neighbors' houses were robbed. So it's depending on the robbery crew, it's like a raid. Yeah.
And that's the advantages of having your own building, but you can control. But to mention the security on the real estate side, that would be my responsibility. And same on the digital side. Even if I had 10 sites, even if I'm not renting them out to somebody else, I'm renting them out to my businesses. So the thing is, as a web developer, I have what people may call a web stack. On some platforms, like one of the biggest security things on websites are called SSLs. So it's the security certificates, to make sure your site says secure when people are on.
Right.
That's similar to having an alarm system, or gates on your window, I should say. But as far as me not owning that tool, me owning that tool is beneficial for every client that may have a hosting. But when it comes to, I'm the digital real estate construction guy. I come in, build it, put the security in, and then I leave.
Now,
Other than that, it's a difference between using a web builder, because a lot of times they're gonna pay you. They're gonna charge you per every little detail, like
right.
plug-in, we should call it.
Now, have you seen? Because I hear what you're saying, and I think that as we expand people's minds, one takeaway is definitely you should hire an expert like yourself to analyze their web needs. If you don't understand your web need, people will tell you go to these webinars, or you're in Clubhouse, or you're on Facebook, or Instagram, you see an ad that says, "Hey, you can get your business up and running in less than 24 hours. I got a free course and teach you how to do Shopify, or teach you how to use Wix." But before anybody steps into that space or realm of saying, "I am going to have a digital storefront," they need to hire an expert to analyze what their real needs are. And I think a roadmap of what are your needs going to look like in 12 months, 10 months, 24 months, blah, blah, blah. But my question to you is, have you currently or ever had a client to come to you and say, "Hey, can you help me create a backup? So if this particular company goes down, or I lose access on the West Coast or East Coast, I have a backup to another site"?
Oh yeah, definitely. So one of the things I actually install on every single site I do, for a WordPress site, most PHP sites, but it's a backup plugin. So I just teach, how to back up your files. I just teach that in general. I was actually, talking about in the room yesterday, but one of the biggest things is, I actually posted a picture of a mug, and it had like Excel document on it, and it said "freak in the sheets." But it's literally like Excel sheets, because the thing is, like when you actually saving, if you have, it doesn't matter what you're using, Wix, Shopify, WordPress, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, every single one of those platforms, your email marketing system, all those, they all have where you can select all the contacts. So it's a few data points. If you don't have a one-click all plug-in thing, what I would put on your site, one of the things you always want to do, you definitely want to have the offline, because if you have a product, products, and you put all those on your website, and you listed different variations and prices, you want to export all of your products. That's number one. You want to export every single product, so you never have to upload that picture, type that price, make that variation, write that description. You should never have to do that more than one time. So export all of your products, so that in worst case scenario, you have a CSV file. It's going to actually be an Excel document where you can upload it at any moment. At any moment, I can upload this into a website, and it'll be 1,000 of my print company products, from banners to socks to shirts to, whatever. But, it's a backup version. And then the other thing you want to back up is your customers, the people that's shopping with you, the people that's going to keep probably paying your bills, your clients, your advocates, all that range of people. You want to download that list of things. And then the third thing is sometimes, web builders a lot of times may not let you migrate all of your data. So that same theme, you may not just be able to save in HTML or certain formats. So sometimes that's, you can only take those contact information and those products with you. But when it comes to having a backup, I've had a client, come to me for backups, especially when they migrating sites and they, mess up their code. And that's the first thing they think about it, especially if their site's been down. They were like, dang, I can't get to it. All my life's work's been erased. When really it's just a coding error, that won't allow them to log into their account. But that's the first thing they're thinking about. Is almost like, somebody just picked your house up off the map and just, that doesn't just happen, picked your house up and just took it somewhere. But just being able to get into there and create a backup. A lot of times they use just a subdomain. So even if it's the same replica of the site, it's just at a different subdomain.
I also wanted to, we're diving in a little bit into the deep waters, so to speak, speak to the concept that while it may only be $30 to host websites, what you're hosting on is a shared server. You're not hosting on a dedicated server for that price. For low price on hosting, you are one of a number of people on this one server. But if you want a dedicated server, a server that you are the only company, you're the only one on that server, that's a higher price point. But why do people choose to have a dedicated server? What advantage does that give them?
Oh yeah, definitely. So some people may not know the difference between the builder, then the hoster, then we go to deep waters to the, to the different types of servers. I'm not going to confuse people with all the different types of servers, but the dedicated one, it's dedicated specifically to your company, but that's more of an enterprise level. So when it comes to something like building something like Shopify, right? When you about to create something that's going to potentially create 10,000 sites, with something, and each of those people have hundreds of products, like that kind of space is not just going to be on your average little server. When it comes to having a server, I can build things like Toro, or build things like course platforms, like just different platforms, because a lot of times even all these platforms that we utilize, they're all built on servers. They're built on space. How you can't not exist without being built on something. So even when it comes to having a dedicated server, we're looking into that for our software, because a line of 10 different software, we never know how many users are going to be on each software. So being able to have a server that's has as many limits as it needs to have. And then one of the things is I'm offering hosting also. So it's almost like we was talking about building an apartment building, right? But just think about the whole complex, right? The VPN is the complex, and I'm gonna sell apartment buildings in my complex. So, but I'm doing so much inside of the complex that I have, or the apartment buildings that I have on the digital side, that when you're doing a lot of different things here and there, especially building software and building solutions for your business, I even think about just going enterprise level. Somebody could start off as it's nothing wrong with the smaller systems, especially being self-managed. I'm gonna just put that out there, especially being self-managed. But it could be somebody doing makeup, and they go from selling products on Shopify, but you have to master. It might come with all these amenities, right? But you just have to master selling, and but on a certain level that Shopify, you may get a start somewhat of a network marketing out of it, and you need a 5,000 sites. You can't coach your whole generational wealth that you're building for 5,000 other people to be paying Shopify. Like that's not it. Even if that's what you're using, you have to go to a model, that's going to support one host. You have 5,000 affiliates and they all on one host. So now we turn into Mary Kate. That's literally what they do. So to be, just think about 5,000 people having sites. You think they all got Shopify's? But just thinking of a growing in an enterprise level, you have to master that one. Like the smallest thing. If you can't keep your clothes washed in the apartment,
Right.
you get an apartment building with all these rooms. What you think you're gonna do? Like that's like getting a mansion from the lotto, but was on Section 8. You still have to master the lifestyle. Of what it comes with. When it comes to having more responsibility, you have to take care of $1 before you take care of 1,000. And my pastor say that all the time. Then if you're not if you're not a servant for $1,000, you can't be a servant for $1 million.
Right.
So
I agree with you. I think that this conversation is making me think about. Shout out to Shara Jones. Shara Jones is a sister here on this platform. She does these great instructional videos about different platforms. And I think that there has to be someone like you and someone like me. We have to leave a legacy of easy to digest content, because our people have, with how you and I met with Sister Judy James, who suffered a stroke, has a television show, and her friend, who also is a stroke survivor, they came together to build a Wix website, and Judy was talking about the experience, and I was explaining to her, not at the same time, but earlier in the year, that, hey, you may want to rethink how the site looks. And they were like totally open to having some coaching done with them. They didn't really choose a good theme, and their things weren't really situated properly. So I think that, well, at least I'll speak for myself. One of my responsibilities, I want to leave the planet better than I found it, is to really help us think through what you just said was around, if you have those 5,000 affiliates, you don't want them to work on Shopify and paying their money to Shopify. That's true. On the same token, though, when you do have a problem with your server and you got 5,000 people emailing you about a problem, and so what has to happen is, in my mind, is that there has to be it needs to be consistent. So when you and I talked about MySpace, and at that time we had stuff like called Ning, we had stuff that was Net Zero, and we have a lot more stable platforms than we have ever had in the history of data. And so, like you talked to Amazon Web Services, AWS, and I talked about Microsoft services. With the conversation, I'm realizing that, at least on my part, I know I have to leave simple, easy to understand videos that'll be evergreen. So, people for the next 10 years can watch these videos, and they can say, before I go to whatever the is, I might want to think about this. Because on both sides, if you choose to web builder, it's similar. It's somewhat of an expensive proposition over long term, and it's also not easy to migrate your content off of the web builder onto a web hoster. So not an easy use. But the other side of that is that you may not be able to afford the time, which is an expensive thing. One of the most expensive things on the planet is time, and you can't recoup it. So if you spend time doing X, Y, and Z, and you can't recoup that, well, guess what? You have Brother Hudson, who can walk you through that process of the thought process. I'm not even talking about just the building, because I think that's where we're lacking right now. Like we were in MySpace days. Not everybody knew how to do a MySpace template, not how to position it. And back then, even on Facebook, at the point that we were doing MySpace templates, Facebook was letting you code Facebook pages. And very few people took advantage of that. I know a brother that did. He now has 6.5 million followers on Facebook because he coded his, he hacked Facebook essentially.
Even Twitter did it at one point too.
Yeah. So I think for me in this conversation, where I want to leave it is that I want to circle back around and come to some terms where we can produce quality, maybe 3-minute videos that give people what you just said around data migration, what you said around backup and security. These videos have to be. I'll send you some of Cher videos. She's the gold standard, the platinum standard. They're quick, they're simple, they're graphics. You do OBS stuff, I do StreamYard stuff. So, we need to collaborate maybe possibly. But these like 180-second videos, 180 that just said boop, 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 boop. And then anybody comes to us with a question, go watch 3-minute video, hit us back. You got any other further questions? Because I think that we could probably talk for another 2 hours, and most people will be tuning in like, these guys are still talking about the internet and web services. But look, that's what it is like.
I just wanted to give a future system for somebody that's probably listening to it, because like I've used and I went through that. I went through a lot of the systems. I went through a lot of the tools. I can name a few that I literally was paying about 20 people. This is probably about three years ago before I actually got into hosting and actually learning how to economic wise secure the stuff, and also not pay for the $700-800 I was paying. But 17 Hats was one. I was using ClickFunnels at one point. I was using Calendly. I was using Linktree. I was using more Zapier. I was using I had the Shopify, which like we said, but I had like two. I actually had two. I was about to start a third one, but I had wrote out all my bills on the wall, and I'm just like, where I'm paying all these people. But when it came to the hosting, it's I kind of had it. I didn't maximize. I didn't maximize it at first. So when it came to the sites, it allowed me to stop paying for all the sites. And then another tool and another resource I'm gonna throw out there. It's called AppSumo. AppSumo. Like some of the deals that I may mention. They kind of come and go. So they're limited time grandfather deals. But the thing is, like I stopped paying basically from my website perspective. I canceled out all the websites I was paying by migrating everything from Shopify to a host. And then it came to a point where I found a host where I only have to pay one time. So I have a host that for the last year and a half, I haven't paid anything but my domain fees. Nothing. And then when it came to the plugin, when it came to the plugins, I purchased the plugins for a lifetime also. So when it came to adding a course, adding an event, adding, a upsell, downsell, a plugin that turns websites into a ClickFunnels. I purchased a lot of these things for a lifetime. So basically, but things like Calendly, I purchased from AppSumo, but I replaced it with something called Calendar Hero. Paid one time. It's exact same thing. But now at this point in time, I learned how to create Calendly. So I was paying Calendly for a year and a half. Then I found this tool. Then I had it for a year. And then now I learned how to build a booking software. But the thing is, even going through that process, the free is not free. I paid up front to not have no bill. So I have, but some of that as a web stack, if I can put appointments on anybody's website, why would they ever need Calendly? So that's the thing, when it comes to, sometimes I purchase not just for myself, but for sites that's going to come after me. So it's almost like just like I said, I'm the construction guy. Come in, build, and then leave. So right now, if to have a website that does literally everything I needed to do, even mini chat, I was paying them, replace them with something called BotStar, but they have an enterprise plan, so I can send automated messenger bots to people, but they gave me 30 accounts. Linktree was replaced with somebody else, and they was replaced with link in bio. It's in my Instagram now, but they gave me 30 of them. I was paying Linktree for like a year. And the free doesn't, any kind of app that's just free, it's probably not giving you it's doing this service by not giving you the features you need to succeed. But to be able to, even MailChimp, I was paying them. I use something called SendFox. SendFox.com. They still deal now. I paid $50 for each stack, for each 5,000, but it has all the same features. So basically, literally everybody I was paying, I canceled them. So, and then including some of the servers, I still have some servers I pay for, but my main stuff, some of my main things, like the app that we're releasing, in the app stores next week, that I paid $15 a year to maintain an app that's similar to Turo. Like, who does that?
Well, but you brought up something around AppSumo, and just so people can understand, if you've never searched for a replacement, what Brother Hudson is talking about is replacing services that are traditionally advertised. Everybody says, hey, you should have Calendly. Hey, you should have a QED scheduler. Hey, you should have MailChimp, or hey, you should have Constant Contact. What he's talking about is searching for replacement products that allow you to pay one fee, and that's it. So a platform like AppSumo is a place to search for those type of services. Also, Product Hunt is another place. The but part about that is that, as with anything, there are going to be some stuff that works properly and works good, and there's going to be some stuff that is completely garbage, right? So
if you don't even know how, how to build, or what a good versus a bad system is, that's what the expertise kind of come into it. Then you could
the 3-minute video. You need the 3-minute video on how to use AppSumo properly. Talk about the failures you had. Talk about the positives. Enough people is saying yes, not buy, but enough people are saying I bought it, it works. You probably have a mental way that generalize something that pops up on AppSumo and says, I'm gonna wait 2 more months, or I'm gonna wait 3 weeks for that. See, those are nuanced things that's in your brain that we need you to put on 3-minute video, 180. And I want people to take away one last thing, is that doing the work, there's no substitute. There's nothing that's gonna make this easier. I guarantee you. The guys who started Versus, they are now suing the company they sold Versus to. Why? Because they said, we created a great platform. We have all this great audience. We have millions and millions. We're crashing Instagram. We're going to sell this concept or license it to this company, and they're going to pay us a bunch of money. And we're good. So Swiss Beats and Timbaland, like, yes, we made a deal with Trilla, and we're good. They now are suing Trilla because Trilla hasn't paid them. If in the same time frame that Swiss Beats and Timbaland did the deal with Trilla, and the 2 years and all this great content from Patti LaBelle to Get Last Night, these iconic people they had in this concept, if they had just built their own platform, and at the same time, they may not have made as much money. They may not be able to say we made 100 million, but they would be able to say, I got the video content. It can be licensed out. Somebody 7 years from now, 13 years from now will come along and say, hey, you got great content. Let's take that content and let's put that into AI. Or let's put it into metaverse. We're gonna configure. We're gonna give each one an avatar. Someone would have paid them. It's just like publishing. And as Black folks, we got to understand. We have to. It's the importance of being able to. I'm not saying you have to go out and build a platform and work with Brother Hudson. But what I am saying is you need to know that you can, and you need to seriously consider your options of building your own platform, your own GoDaddy, your own Hostgator. And you need to understand that you can do that. Not that you have to, but you can do it, and it's available, and it's like that, not as far as ease, but it's available just like snapping your fingers. The work has to, there's no, I don't give an F what anybody, and this is going to be probably what teacher I would make. I don't give an F what anybody says. You still got to do the work. So the question is, are you going to do the work for you, or are you going to do the work and make somebody else's family the generational?
Yeah, definitely, man. Because you gotta always put the work in on both sides. And I think on the other side, on the easier side is, like I said, getting the apartment. That's just like in the rental car space. I'm here in Atlanta. Jumping on Turo is the easiest thing. Doing private rentals, building your own private marketing, that's the hardest part. So regardless of
cleaning the car every week, making sure the car looks good, it's you got that second car
work on the independent side, but you have to maximize. That they're just like a new e-commerce person. If they're only on their own Shopify, a lot of times, or they just their own website, period. A lot of times nobody's holding them accountable though. So sometimes jumping on Amazon gonna be on you. You don't respond to a message from a customer in 23 hours and 59 seconds, you getting a hit. Every single metric from responding to a customer to everything matters. Now it's a middleman holding you accountable. You might not, if you don't like it, then it's technically not for you.
Right. And or if you have to understand growth, what comes with growth and what comes with the kids call it adulting, but what comes with adult responsibilities is accountability. You can't have responsibility and not have accountability. That's just the way life is. So, and we're all accountable to somebody. Some of us accountable 10-year-olds. Some of us accountable 10-month-olds. So some of us accountable to 10,000 people. But that accountability is a part. It's just like the work. You can't have the work without accountability. It's just, that's the way that life is. And so I think our generation, or our time period, maybe not generation because we're different, but our time period has made people believe you can get success without accountability. And that's not how that works. It just doesn't work that way. I love our conversation, bro. I know we both got. Yes. And I definitely want to collaborate with you on these 3-minute videos because I think that they're, as you know, is a way to make clips and to bring content to the forefront and make it so that our people, you and I can be talking in 2033, 10 years from now, and be like, yo, we got over like 2 million views per video, man. Did you think we were gonna get that? Nah, man, we just put the video up. That's what happens. Because this is evergreen content.
Oh yeah, definitely drop that content so we can change the world, man. Because I think with the generational part, I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of times I explain just the technical side and apps and all that stuff, but I just know 100 years from now, even 100 years from now, I know, based on what it's built on, like what basically, I know books, we're going to have podcasts, we're going to have videos, we're going to have, services for your services. I think any service-based business to get to another level, it's going to take some of probably your own CRM, to even, have something to pass down in a sense. So having a server for your own CRM and all those products are really passed down to be able to still survive when you're not here, like as I wrap cars or do different things. But if I just physically stop in my business and nobody physically learns from these videos or learns from the training and have a system to implement it, then they can't continue on that legacy. So I just know, all those assets from digital to even certain physical assets are going, all that stuff is going to be tied to that server. And, all that stuff is going to be tied to, probably a flash drive, because I want that stuff to still be teaching, still be selling 100 years from now, so to be able to, even from NFTs, all that stuff is digital, crypto, all that stuff is digital, courses, all that stuff is digital. You know what I'm saying? So to be able to not podcast, all that stuff is digital. So to videos, having your own video host, cancel YouTube, use them for promotion. I'm just playing.
No, yeah.
Video hosting, because I can control, even where I put that video, no commercials, the control of my button, every single thing, where it's going to go afterwards. I'm just saying every single asset that you control, is going to be here when you're gone. And if that's what your legacy is, you want that to continue. So I just know, that system is going to be real low to maintain, but it's still going to be able to do everything.
And I think I also tell parents that to think of domain names as like you've been saying, to actually leave domain names and in a either a living will or trust to their children, even if you never use that domain name. You never know what that name ownership. So a lot of people pay 10. I don't recommend this, but a lot of people do it. They pay 10 years for a domain name. In 10 years, based on what we see happening today, you may be gone, or I may be gone. So, but we need to be able to make sure that
that's an asset, though.
Exactly.
That's an asset. And I know domainaholics. They collect hundreds of them. We be a domain.
Hi, my name is Martin. I'm a domainaholic.
so all those are like little assets. You know what I'm saying? So even putting
that real estate.
Exactly. And having your own host, even if you had 1,000 domains, you can have your own sales landing page or bidding page, or, on each domain site, versus, having them ghost pages where it go to the domain supplier site,
and they got advertising, they got ads to run on it. Cause it's like, I got a guy I got to get back to that says, hey, we want to put he first been LinkedIn and say, hey, we want to put your content into our programmatic marketplace. And the thing he didn't say in his text, in his email, was that they want you to have I think it's 2 million views a day for you to be on the platform. But they are basically owned by Comcast. So they're the big boys that are. What programmatic advertising is, just go onto it, and not you, but the ad agencies go on. They just drop onto places that have ads that people are going to see. That's it. And so you literally do anything.
The ad network.
Yes. On steroids, though, because these are the big ones.
But use all most domains for advertising.
Exactly.
And a domain ad network. Those are built on servers.
Yep. Yeah.
Hosting.
And it's just so many different opportunities, but you got to own it. You got to do the work. And a shout out to Brother Sheffield, Brother Roach, Brother Kamar. And we had a question from this is my first question in the 2 years I've been doing streaming. It wasn't a question on our topic, though. That's why I didn't show it to you until the end. But it was a question from YouTube. Why do baby boomers love credit so much? I have no idea. I'm not a baby boomer. I don't love credit. I think it's an interesting financial vehicle to use, but I don't love credit. We were talking about generational, and I think that came up in that conversation. So I'll shout out to Tyrone. Go over to YouTube, and I'll leave Mr. Tyrone my opinion.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because investing is getting cool now.
We were programmed, right? We were programmed. That generation was programmed to after the war, and so we'll be able to say after COVID. We'll say post COVID. Because COVID was such a big thing that happened to our generation, but a big thing that happened to their generation, the baby boom generation, was the World War II. That was a big deal. That was, people were dropping bombs. And, the United States was bombed. London was bombed. A lot of people died in that war. So that was a big deal. And so being able to get the American dream, I've been watching, I forgot what documentary I watched, but talked about, how people looked at the white picket fence, the home, all this thing was the American value system, which all was a lie.
They're faking it till they make it.
All and one funny fact, there's a place called Levittown, PA, Levittown, New Jersey, and Levittown, Delaware. The guy, and that was 11 too. The developer, he used SAR materials. We actually bought a house. They changed it from Levittown to Bulletboro in New Jersey. We bought a house in Bulletboro when I was in my teens, and we bought it on auction, or foreclosure rather. But we had to redo all. I didn't even know you could make corrugated cardboard pipes. The developer, and we bought this house in an area of Willingboro called Country. So it was a higher ranch style homes with an in ground swimming pool, heated, all this great. You go in the house, and the house has has pipes that are made out of cardboard. So of course the pipes are leaking. You're like, what the? So we had to replace all those pipes. But my point is, the American dream was really an American nightmare for most Americans, if not all. And with Black people, it was doubly. We got a double dose of nightmareism because people didn't want us in their neighborhoods because we were redlined. We had to pay more expensive mortgages, blah 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 blah. So when Tyrone's asking about credit allowed you to alleviate some of those problems because you didn't have to spend cash to do all these things that you were being programmed and say, I want. But we really didn't want that. We just wanted to live our lives and, not have to deal with racism. But that's a whole nother conversation. Brother Hudson, it's been real, man. We are at the 1 hour mark. I was planning we were going to talk for half an hour, but we talked for an hour. So
yeah, definitely. I can go out there teaching them about the, domains. We go all day about domains by themselves, but the hosting and all that, it just get deeper and deeper. But as long as we get the point across, to be able to kind of at least teach a few differences, so they can start putting in some action or putting in the work regardless, because you have to graduate, it's always more and more levels we graduate in that. So, I'm always staying at it and building. So, it's like we all have digital real estate, whether we renting somebody else's right now or we got our own. If we have our own, we trying to improve our own. If we're renting in somebody else's, we just trying to build it till we get our own, or we just leverage what we do have. So being able
I love what you said right there.
Having your own is the biggest thing, whether it's renting your own.
And I think what you said right there was a great word that I take away. Is the final takeaway is leverage. You got to leverage. Shout out to JT Ripper, author JT Ripper, one of my clients. He has a great book coming out, and I think that's the most important part of any concept or business you're doing is what's your leverage? How are you leveraging your assets? Another final takeaway, sister puts this on a link that I was like, ooh, this is good. Our identities are our assets. So that leveraging, how are you leveraging your identity as whatever you are as an asset, not as a liability, but as an asset? If you're gonna protect the hell out of your assets, you're gonna put that stock or that cryptocurrency in a wallet. You're gonna make sure you have a security code. You're gonna make sure you have a pass. You're gonna do all that stuff. We don't think of our identities, domain names, digital real estate as assets, and we really need to start and leveraging them.
Yeah, anything we can't touch. You know what I'm saying? Even some of those domain names, social media names. When you think of something, that's yours. So you have to claim it. If it's already claimed, digital real estate is taken. It's only so many out there. So we only got one of us.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest thing they're trying to steal out here. So
before you leave, I did have a question for you that I just remembered I wanted to ask you, being that JT's here. How's your response been with Amazon support? We're having a little challenge with getting Amazon to respond to us. You think is it better to call the 1-800 number or 188 number to try to get the support as a he's a vendor, has a book up on Amazon and they're not responding via email? You think it's better to call the 800 number? Wait for that.
Yeah, I hate waiting on the phone for Amazon.
I know. That's why I was trying to do it without the name. But I think, yeah. What's your experience been with Amazon as far as feedback?
Yeah, you said as far as seller.
Support. How they support you as a.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other part of that topic, when you mentioned the leverage, we can definitely talk about that the next time we go live. But the Amazon, the support is good on the phone. Like right now, they're over the years they get more and more not more automated, I should say.
Okay. Gotcha.
But as far as getting on, even finding those old phone numbers, sometimes they don't even post it on the new pages.
I know, that's the other thing.
They don't even want people to call the number sometimes. But being able to, I utilize my own platform. At one point I was selling solely on Amazon, so that's a lesson. When you're using somebody else's real estate and you get, banned for something you didn't know you was doing. For a few months, but that's solely your only source of income. That at one point that what it was for me. I was making 14, something a day when on Amazon. But once you get banned, zero is a big difference.
It's not good. Don't feel good.
But books and things like that, you should be good. You're not trying to test the limits. But the definitely the support when you getting on the phone. I always say utilize, we're talking about digital real estate. I see Amazon and eBay and Etsy is like malls, right? So your digital, having your own home, your own digital real estate is the only way you can go to the mall and bring somebody to you, But the thing about Amazon, you have to play by their rules, with their messaging. Yeah. They, even as a seller, they require you to make sure. You respond to your customer in 24 hours. But if I send Amazon a message, they don't care if they're not going to respond.
That right there.
But the thing about with that, sometimes there's so much going on. It's really getting on some of those phones, and then a lot of times it's sometimes the forums, because it could be a certain problem with a certain thing, and they come out with so many automations that. It's still technical. So they literally create more forms or tutorials to try to instead of talk to you. Did you view this page? Did you view that?
Right.
Here's the resource to do it. Like, I just talked to you. How you give me a link while I'm on the phone and then hang up.
Is that helpful? Thank you.
Getting on the phone, man, like you can create your own Amazon with a host. Of course, we know what the work comes with building the Amazon, because they're the biggest in the world. So I'm pretty sure it's hard to fathom what kind of work that is if, they're the greatest in the world when it comes to e-commerce. Right. But leveraging them is always the biggest thing, though. Put in your information in that packaging, because they can't control what you put in that packaging, to bring them to your own digital real estate. Whether it's, hey, view this to get this discount, but it ain't here. Because
over here
they allow minimal branding to promote, getting paid directly, because they want to stay, to keep using you as leverage, but what they doing, so we leveraging them, thinking they leveraging them. But
right, and that's the thing. That's the key right there. That's the key right there. And you can do that with QR codes. You made me start thinking about QR codes when you said that. I was like, oh man, we gotta have a conversation about QR codes.
And then so Publish Drive is one thing I purchased, because Amazon seller, my dad uses that to sell his books. But a thing called Publish Drive, I purchased that for one time, but it allows you to publish your book to over 1,000 places.
Okay, I gotta check that out. Yeah, we gotta have. We definitely gotta have a talk. All right, brother. Appreciate you, man. Stay safe there, Georgia. I'll try to stay safe here in Louisiana.
Definitely, my brother. Definitely, my brother. Next time we're gonna go live. We're gonna talk about the leveraging. Because we just touched on it, but one thing I teach is called multi-cross platform selling. So having your own book on your own site, then having eBay, then Amazon, then Etsy, then all these other platforms. Every product has platforms for it.
Right.
Whether it's course, whether it's a car, whether it's a boat, whether it's a podcast,
whatever.
It's pocket. Even events. Most people might put on Eventbrite when really they can leverage their own site and not pay that 8%. So if you make $1 million off events, that's 80,000. You're giving out to Eventbrite. But leveraging it for yourself is the biggest thing. So we could talk about that our next live. But definitely appreciate you, my brother. Always bring some great combo. So I'll catch you in one of the clubhouse rooms, my brother.
All right, brother. Peace and love. We'll see y'all next week as we discuss Black Business Chat next week and talk about more things that Black businesses need to do and need to know about. Y'all have a blessed week.